Hello and welcome back to the highlights from the Tennent's Men's Premiership and National Leagues. We are into semi-final week in the top flight with 4 teams battling it out to make it to the final this Saturday. But who was going to make it? Well, first we're going to start at Mansfield Park where the unbeaten Hawick took on reigning champions Marr.
Marr's Colin Sturgeon kicked the first points of this game, which would end up being remembered as a nervy, scrappy affair. Unfortunately for Marr, that penalty gave Hawick a kick up the proverbial. They hammered on the visitors' door with Callum Rennick stopped inches short, but the ball was moved wide to Ronan McKean, who powered in for the opening try. Kirk Ford nudged over a penalty for the first points of the second half, in which Hawick imprisoned Marr in their own 22. The reigning champions were given a lifeline though, when Sturgeon kicked another 3 points. The score was now 8-6, but it would be the Greens who kicked on. A kick to the corner preceded a line-out drive, eventually setting up a try for Jay Linton, converted by Ford for a 15-6 lead. On the stroke of full time, Ford kicked his second penalty and Hawick confirmed their place in next Saturday's grand final.
So Hawick the first team to book their place in the final, but who was going to join them? In a repeat of last year's semi-final, it was an Edinburgh derby to look forward to as Currie Chieftains took on Edinburgh Accies.
Currie laid down a marker in this game using a tried and tested formula again and again to repeated success. Bashing a hole up the middle, they then spread the play wide, allowing Cody McGovern to run in the first score. It took half an hour for the next score to come. Once more, the forwards softened up the Accies defence, allowing captain Rhys Davis an opportunity to twist and turn his way over from short range.
Stay down, just stay down, thank you. Stay on. Try.
The next score was something a little different. Accies had kicked ahead and Currie had regathered, with Ian Sim sparking a counter. Umpteen phases later, including important yards from DJ Innes, flanker Gregor Nelson was able to dive over the Accies line with the visiting defence in disarray. Three tries down at the break, Accies hit back with one of their own at the start of the second. Jamie Looms stuck a penalty to touch, and the visiting pack did the rest, with prop Clem Lacour claiming the score. The fight back didn't last long, as Cody McGovern grabbed his second just 4 minutes later. The move started with a midfield break from Jamie Forbes, with Gregor Nelson and DJ Ennis linking to the Kiwi winger out wide. The outcome was no longer in doubt, and the game mellowed as a result. But the Chieftains still added one final flourish, with winger Ian Sim crashing over from close range. Next stop, Hawick.
And so we have our two finalists. Hawick will take on Currie Chieftains in this Saturday's Tennent's Men's Premiership Final with a 3 PM kickoff at Mansfield Park. The game will be live streamed here on Scottish Rugby's YouTube channel and scottishrugby.org. And so now to Tennent's Men's National 1 and to the relegation battle. With 3 teams going down this year, it's more to fight for than ever, and Aberdeen Grammar were looking to make sure it wasn't a double relegation for them as they looked to keep their survival hopes alive as they took on GHK at Rubislaw. In a match of two halves, Tom Alpin was the first to score with this penalty, which put Aberdeen Grammar 3-0 up. But the first try would go to GHK as Ben Frame broke through the tackle and went over for their first points. Aberdeen hit back on the 30th minute mark when Cam Robertson went over from short range after the forwards turned on the pressure from the scrum. The conversion was missed to give Grammar an 8-7 lead. That would be the only points in the first half, but the second half had much more to come. A break by Ben Frame led to a try from Joe Stafford, which was converted by Grant Anderson to give GHK a 14-8 lead just after the break. And this time Grant Anderson went over for GHK's third try of the match. Aberdeen started to turn on the style, and after a quick dummy, Craig Shepherd went over for their second try of the match. But less than 5 minutes later, GHK were back on it, and they got their bonus try through Lewis Brock, their second in as many weeks. The gap between the two sides continued to increase as Hugh Parker went over for their next try just 5 minutes after their bonus point. Grammar could not withstand this pressure from the visitors, and the current National 2 champions went in to extend the lead once more, this time through Angus North. But it wasn't all over for Aberdeen Grammar as they searched for their bonus point try, and once again it was Craig Shepherd that would break through the GHK defence to score. But GHK were not finished, and they went through after a quick tap for their next try, once again by Angus North. GHK tried to hold on against the Aberdeen defence, but Paul Paxton had other ideas as he went over for the home side's bonus point try. And from one side of the pitch to the other, Craig Shepherd went in for his third try as Aberdeen continued to score. It was little too late, however, for an Aberdeen comeback, and they now find themselves in the perilous position of a double relegation. Elsewhere in Tennent's men's National 1, Ayr got a 33-10 win over Biggar at Millbrae, keeping their title chances alive as they go into a huge clash next week against Kelso. It was high scoring for Dundee Rugby once again as they got the 54-20 win over Stewart's Melville, which sees the side relegated to Tennent's men's National 2 after just one season back in the second division. In the self-dubbed El Plastico, the Battle of the Plastic Pitches, it was Melrose that came away with the win 27-21 against Highland. And it was a hard-fought win for Kelso at Marrside as they beat Watsonians by 25 points to 13. And elsewhere, it was hard work for Gala as they got a 24-20 win over Stirling County, who managed to get a bonus point in their hunt for survival. So now let's take a look at the table, and Kelso and Ayr are just separated by 1 point going into next week's huge game. Melrose, however, on the other hand, are only 7 points behind Kelso and could catch them depending on the result. At the bottom of the table as well, Stewart's Melville's survival chances are all but over, as well potentially as Aberdeen Grammar. However, mathematically, there is still a chance. Watsonians are only 4 points ahead of Stirling County as well. The big game this weekend is in Tennent's men's National 1. Kelso take on Ayr in the battle of first versus second. Ayr have the chance to go top of the table. Elsewhere, Biggar will take on Aberdeen Grammar, and it's a borders derby between Gala and Melrose. GHK will take on Dundee Rugby, Highland will host Watsonians, and Stewart's Melville will welcome Stirling County to Inverleith. Newton Stewart keep the pace in Tennent's men's National 2 as they got a 27-10 win over Preston Lodge. Elsewhere, Dumfries Saints fought hard to get a 13-11 win over Berwick, and it was a thumping victory for Boroughmuir as they keep the survival hopes alive with a 71-10 win over Cartha Queen's Park. Elsewhere, Falkirk beat Peebles by 38 points to 21, and Glasgow Accies keep the pace on Newton Stewart with a 64-19 win over Kirkcaldy. Hamilton Bulls also fell short against Lastwaite in a high-scoring 46-33 clash. So this is how the table now looks for Tennent's men's National 2. It's only just 2 points in it between Newton Stewart and Falkirk. Glasgow Accies are trying to get their top spot back. Despite a big jump last week, Kirkcaldy now fall back into the relegation spots. There is only now just 2 points separating them and 5th place Berwick. So as the title race heats up, let's now take a look at next week's fixtures. Top of the table will face bottom of the table as Newton Stewart will take on Hamilton Bulls. Cartha Queen's Park will host Falkirk, while Glasgow Accies travel to Dumfries Saints. Kirkcaldy will host Boroughmuir, Peebles will host Lastwaite, and Berwick make the short trip up to East Lothian to take on Preston Lodge. With Gordonians' clash against Murrayfield Wanderers unfulfilled this weekend, it was the chance for West of Scotland, Hawick and Hillhead Jordan Hill to catch up on the league leaders. However, West of Scotland could not beat Allen Glens as they fell to a 42-17 defeat. Elsewhere, Hawick won 48-7 over Greenock Wanderers, and Hillhead Jordan Hill won 41-7 over Perthshire. Strathmore also got a huge win over Royal High by 57 points to 5, and White Craigs just fell against Orkney by 26 points to 32. So that leaves now just Hillhead Jordan Hill just 11 points behind Gordonians, albeit now the unbeaten league leaders have a game in hand. They go above West of Scotland, only separated by 2 points. Orkney now start to increase the gap between themselves and 7th place and those relegation spots. Looking ahead into next week now, and Strathmore will look to close the gap on Orkney as they take on Greenock Wanderers and Orkney welcome Gordonians. Hillhead Jordan Hill will take on Royal High, while Hawick take on Allen Glens. Murrayfield Wanderers will host Perthshire, and West of Scotland will host White Craigs. And so that is it for another weekend of Tennent's men's Premiership and National League action. We have our 2 finalists in the Premiership Hawick will take on Currie Chieftains this Saturday at Mansfield Park with a 3 p.m. kickoff live on scottishrugby.org. Join us on Friday where we'll be previewing all of the action before Saturday's game, and then join us next week. We'll be rounding up all the action from Tennent's Men's National 1, 2 and 3. We'll see you there.